Okay, so I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I want everybody to take out their cell phones. Everybody take out your cell phones. No, we're not going to pass them around. Once you have your cell phones out, I want you to go to Google. No, there's a reason why we're going to Google. And now I want you to type in died suddenly. Across the top, you're going to see the news. I want you to click on that. It's right there next to all the images and videos. What you're going to see is you scroll through all the pages and pages of people of all ages, different ethnic groups, different religions, different lifestyles, babies, teenagers, parents, sisters, and brothers, all who the news reports as being people who have died suddenly. There are children and teenagers that will never have the chance to grow up. They'll never have the chance to fall in love. There are children who are forced to grow up without a sibling, without a mother, without a father, and yet the government keeps on pushing this experimental drug on its citizens and says, well, they had an underlying issue. To any one of those people who happen to die suddenly. A statement now that is said by many as if it is okay that they died because they had an underlying issue. All of these people have had their lives stolen from them. And for what? To regain their freedom so they could get on a plane, perhaps they could go to a restaurant, enjoy a sporting event, or so they could just play a game or join a team with their friends. My heart and prayers go out to each and every one of those families. And now I ask that you too can share in their stories and their names so they can live in all of our hearts forever. Because every life counts and every life matters. Thank you. Now, using your cell phones again, this here is a little bit more educational for just a moment, is that if you go into Google once again and you type in the word CanLii, that is CANLII, CanLii.org will come up. Now this is a website that will provide each and every one of you with access to court judgments from all Canadian courts, including judgments from the Supreme Court of Canada, which is our highest court, all the way down to our federal courts and to our tribunals. You will also have access to all the statutes, regulations, charters of rights, human rights, employment law, all the laws. So please, I ask you to go there and empower yourself with the knowledge of the law. Now, whether you believe in this experimental drug known as a vaccine, or if you don't, you need to spread the word and do your research first before making the decisions to have innocent children vaccinated. Pharmaceutical companies and governments are the only ones benefiting from during this global experiment. Within the pharmaceutical sector, you will see in CanLii reoccurring breaches in ethical standards in order to achieve speedy approval for their products. Is this sounding familiar? Generally, pharmaceutical companies conduct their trials in developing countries on the impoverished sick and where ethical standards are a little bit more lax. This industry has been accused of killing thousands of people. You will see in CanLii that millions upon millions of dollars that Pfizer and the other pharmaceutical companies have paid out for being found guilty or for themselves pleading guilty for liability on their experimental research on the children. This is why the pharmaceutical companies have signed agreements with their governments to be exempt from all civil liability arising from these shots. And everyone needs to understand what kind of grave danger comes from having agreements like this put in place with our governments. The abuse of power that our federal and provincial governments have created proves that they do not care about you. They do not care about you. They do not care about your children. They don't care about any of us. A government who refuses to hold a pharmaceutical company liable for adverse reactions or deaths that are caused to its people by a way of an experimental drug does not care about its citizens' well-being. You will see in researching Pfizer, when you go into CanLII, that has been instances where alternative proven treatments have been also known in this case. And even in the cases there, the nearby Doctors Without Borders centers, they wouldn't even discuss this with their patients. This too is sounding really familiar, isn't it? This is not a conspiracy. It is custom for Pfizer researchers to continue giving doses of experimental antibiotics or vaccines to children, even if they had a severe adverse reaction. In one particular example in CanLII, despite a child having a frozen eye and declining health after their very first dose, the researchers continued to give that child another dose. And that child died 3 days later. Their spokesperson said, and I quote, in regards to clinical failures, and perhaps the death of the children could have resulted from low dosing. Now, for the children that participated in that control group, they were administered 1/3 of the recommended dosage. That is the same dosage, 1/3, that the pharmaceutical companies are now pushing to start giving our innocent children. They no longer need to use human subjects in developing countries because our government has allowed them to do it here. Experiment on you and experiment on your children without any kind of consequence. Now, I'm not giving anyone any kind of medical advice as I stand up here, or I'm not telling anyone not to participate in these experimental vaccines. That is your choice. I just wanted everyone to know that Pfizer and the other pharmaceutical companies have copious amounts of criminal findings against them. So now you're going to ask yourself, well, what can we do? Well, I can tell you what I'm going to do. As a paralegal and as a notary public, I am offering my services free to anyone in Ontario. Anyone in Ontario who needs to have a document notarized, whether it's an NOL, whether it's an affidavit, you want to serve the police, you want to serve your employers, you want to serve anyone, I am here and my services are free. Now, please, everybody know you can reach me at lifelibertyandlisa@gmail.com. And now, if there are any other paralegals, law clerks, or lawyers out there who want to join forces with me and provide free services, I and so many people here today would be humbly grateful for your help. Now, what can you do? Well, instead of being keyboard warriors on social media, it's time to take meaningful action, action that's going to start getting results. If everyone does this, we can make a change in the false narrative and in the fear-mongering of COVID, which would be a huge step in making others finally take notice in the truth of what is really happening. For example, I'm going to give you guys, everybody here, a call to action. You need to write to all of the major mainstream media outlets and demand that they stop misrepresenting the COVID case numbers to us as Canadians. This is both morally and ethically wrong, and they need to be accountable and be put on notice that they will be charged criminally if they do not cease and desist. They need to stop misrepresenting the statistics and give us each day, which in itself is fear-mongering. It is. Absolutely. And we need to tell them to stop. If thousands of us start doing this each day, we can get this changed. In their daily statistics, they give the case numbers of the double vaccinated, and then they misrepresent the numbers by lumping the unvaccinated, the partially vaccinated, the unknowns into a group together. This is very dishonest misrepresentation, and in fact, should be considered fraud. And they should all be charged accordingly if this does not stop. So please, I'm asking everyone, you need to write all media outlets. You need to start hashtagging all media outlets. You need to demand that they stop misrepresenting the cases. You need to let them know that we, the people, have had enough and that they will be held accountable in a court of law. If thousands of you were to send these letters, emails, tweets, Facebook, Instagram, posts each day, they would have to start reporting the truth. And that little small act, as small as it is, they would actually have to start reporting the truth, and it's going to have a huge impact on everybody else's eyes opening up and see what's really happening here. Now, what can Ford do, our Premier Ford? Premier Ford. I am addressing Premier Ford here today. Premier Ford, you have told Canadians that sometime between January and the end of March, these vaccine passports and mandates will be done. I'm asking you today, is this just another empty promise you have told the people to keep them at bay whilst you prepare for the upcoming election? Or, if you honestly believe that you will, and that is your true intention, then why wait? Thousands of people whom you are supposed to be protecting as your citizens are still losing their jobs, making it impossible for some of them to live, making it impossible for some of them to put food on their table for their families. There has been major increases in mental health, increases in suicide, and an overwhelming increase at the food banks, and thousands of more people could be homeless or they could die by Christmas. Mr. Ford, if this will and really be over in as little as 4 months, then do the humane thing. Stop the passport mandates now. And all those employees who have lost their jobs or in the process of losing their jobs should be compensated with retroactive pay to the day that they were sent home on that unpaid leave. For those that are in the process right now of being sent home, a mandatory paid leave needs to be put in place until such time that you fulfill your promise to the people and end these mandates. The government, they can fund this by using some of the profit that they've received from these vaccines. That will cover their costs. And Mr. Ford, you also need to guarantee that all these innocent people who have lost their jobs will also have a job to go back to. Now let's not forget the students, our children. Any and all students that have had to forego their studies since these mandates were put in place will also need to be compensated, and they will also need to be allowed back into their programs. They're now messing with our children's minds. This has been nothing but sadistic behavior. Adults bullying children, coercing them to take an experimental drug, or they can't attend school. It's sickening, and anyone who has participated or condoned this type of behavior on the children should be ashamed of themselves. This has been unjust. Mr. Ford, You have encouraged all businesses, schools, restaurants to put your mandates in place and allowed them all the ability to not accept accommodations of religious, medical, or conscious belief. And you, sir, should also be ashamed of yourself. You have aided in coercing people into taking experimental drugs, which has proven to not stop the prevention of getting COVID or stopping the prevention of transmitting COVID. Based on these facts, I ask you, Premier Ford, why are the double vaccinated allowed to attend restaurants? Why are they allowed to go to school, concerts, or gaming events when they too are at risk of getting and transmitting the virus? Not only can they transfer the virus to other fully vaccinated people, but they can also unknowingly pass it on and harm the unvaccinated. Can you, Dr. Tam, tell me 100% that it is not the double vaccinated people who are the ones still spreading the virus? So who really needs to be protected, I ask? This is not science. Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Tory, Mr. Ford, the citizens of Ontario, Canada deserve to be treated equal. Under the Genetic Non-Discrimination Act, they are not to be discriminated by their genetic characteristics. You, Mr. Ford, and your team of lawyers have found ways to get around our Charter of Rights. You have found ways to get around our employment laws, and you've found ways to get around our human rights laws. You, as our elected officials, our leaders, our government, have aided and collaborated with suppressing data, suppressing facts, and suppressing our Ontarians' ability to engage in free speech. You have allowed Dr. Tam to lie and manipulate the facts, and not once have you allowed a debate to be held between Dr. Tam and any other qualified doctor who does not share in your narrative. You're all a disgrace. I can almost 100% guarantee that a money trail will lead us right back to each and every one of you. And when it does, everyone will wake up and know without a reasonable doubt that the true motivation behind this medical tyranny, and you will all go to jail. I swore an oath. I swore an oath to seek and improve the administration of justice. An oath to champion the rule of law and to safeguard the rights and freedoms of all persons. I implore all fellow paralegals, lawyers, law societies, justice of the peace, the Crown, police departments, our military, our doctors, our nurses, and all of those that believe in humanity to stand together and finally put an end to you, our corrupted government. Tyranny! Tyranny must stop now. Thank you.